Welcome to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Para Cave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. Troy Warner here, and it is round 3 review time of the NRL. Already 3 weeks into the competition. The competition is flying by. Nearly 1 month of footy already gone in the NRL. Imagine that after the long wait we had to have. But it is back, and yes, round 3 already. And it kicked off on Thursday night up there in Brisbane at Suncorp Stadium. It was the Brisbane Broncos taking on the North Queensland Cowboys in front of a pretty healthy crowd, 45,317. Both these sides play some really good games together. We've seen in the past, particularly around that 2015, 16, 17 time, some very close games of results that were 2 points or less even. And it was the 4X Cup apparently as well. Both these teams sponsored by 4X. And look, Queensland rivals. So big brother versus little brother, I guess you could say. The Cowboys struggling a lot this year. They've lost their first 2 and they ended up losing this game as well, 26 points to 16 to the Brisbane Broncos, their second win of the year. The Cowboys did come back in the second half as it was 12-0 at halftime to the Brisbane Broncos, and it ended up being 16-14 to the Cowboys. Now, does that put a bit of pressure under coach Todd Payten? Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see, but certainly he has been mentioned as one of the coaches that is under pressure to retain his job this season, so we'll just have to wait and see about that one. The Brisbane Broncos, look, they had a loss against the Cowboys last week. Against the Raiders, I should say. Got that one massively wrong. So it was good for them to get back into the winner's circle, and they did that by basically controlling the ball and a 84% completion rate. So that certainly played its mark in this game. And one player who was outstanding in this game and scored a runaway try and has been touted as currently the best prop forward in the game, and that was Payne Haas. 214 metres for Payne. He scored that try as well. If you can, go back and see the highlights, because I think it was about 30 metres out. Just basically broke the line and charged towards the line and scored, and absolutely amazing, particularly when you think Payne is celebrating Ramadan at the moment as well, and is fasting as they do during Ramadan. So magnificent effort, and the question has been thrown up: is he the best prop forward ever? Personally, I think he has to do a little bit more throughout his career, but the way he's going, he's certainly going that way, because we just haven't seen that in a prop front row forward before. But he's certainly looking that way. He's got an engine on him. He could play 80 minutes if need be. If he had to. I think he had a small break during the game, but he could play 80 minutes. That's just how athletic he is. Sort of a player he is. Jordan Ricky, 43, top tackler for the Broncos. Reece Robson, who's off to the Roosters next year, 44 tackles. The Brisbane Broncos, they had that one loss against the Raiders last week, but they got this one against the Cowboys. Back on track. Adam Reynolds, 4 from 4. He also kicked a penalty goal as well and scored a try as well. So a happy night for Adam Reynolds, and became the 3rd highest point scorer in NRL history. Or in rugby league history, I should say. So congratulations to Adam Reynolds. Where to now? Well, the Cowboys, they take on the Raiders at Queensland Country Bank Stadium, and the Broncos play another Queensland rival, the Battle of Brisbane, against the Dolphins, and that one is at Suncorp Stadium on Friday. To the first game on Friday night, and it was... Sorry, what am I doing? Sorry, I'm absolutely stuffing this one up. My apologies. That game, the Broncos game against the Cowboys, that was played on Friday night. Of course, the Broncos played on Friday night. That was the second game on the Friday night. Let's go back to Thursday night. How silly of me. You can tell it's been a long week and a long weekend, I guess. Look, the Melbourne Storm took on the Penrith Panthers down there in Melbourne at Amy Park. Now, the Panthers haven't had a good record down there. The Storm, obviously, they smashed Parramatta in the first round, and they had the bye last week, and this week they take on the Panthers. Now, 17,586 turned up. It was slippery conditions on the field. And look, wow. All the drama, I think, started in the 7th minute, I think it was. The Nathan Cleary collided with Jerome Hughes, and he was ruled off the field for a HIA and failed that HIA. So he'll be out of this game in the next game against the Rabbitohs on Thursday in round number 4 with the mandatory 11-day stand down. But the Panthers, they never went away, did they? It just showed you that even if they have that man down, they need to step it up and perform they did. Brian Toto got 2 tries. Paul Alamotti got a double as well. Casey McLean got a try as well. It was 14-10 at half-time, and you thought it was still anybody's game. But then Cameron Munster, he was in everything as per usual. Had a little bit of a running battle with Liam Martin throughout the game. But the Melbourne Storm, they ended up getting over the Panthers, 30 points to 24 for their second win of the season, and they sit on top of the ladder as we speak. So they play the Dragons next week at Cogra, and look, you'd probably almost think they'd be pretty confident in getting that win as well. The Panthers, as I said, they play the Rabbitohs again at Accor Stadium on Thursday night. No Nathan Cleary, so that'll be interesting what they do with the halves. I think during this game, Blaze Talangi made his club debut for the Panthers at 5'8", so potentially Jack Cole will go to halfback and Blaze will slot into that 5'8" spot in this game against the Rabbitohs. We'll just have to wait and see what happens in that game. For the Panthers, look, Isaiah Yeo, he's a machine. He was the top tackler, 42. Harry Grant for the Melbourne Storm, 45. Brian Toto, 192 metres. Jack Howarth, 147 metres. So they were your top performers in that game. So, look, it was worthy of a grand final replay, I guess. So early on in the season, there was a lot of anticipation for that game, and it sure did not fail to deliver. The first game on the Friday night, I've already spoken about the second game. The first game on the Friday night was the Warriors taking on the Roosters over there in New Zealand at Go Media Stadium, Auckland. 23,219. So a fantastic crowd over there in New Zealand. It was a tough game. The Warriors won 3-1. It was 6-4 at half time. 6-4 at half time, you thought it could be anybody's game. Still, again, very close game. Bit of rough conditions, slippery conditions, wet conditions over there in New Zealand. There was some exciting football. Victor Radley went off for a HIA again, which is probably a little bit concerning, but you would think that the Roosters are pretty good in handling that situation, obviously having some players in the past having to medically retire due to HIAs and concussions throughout their careers. So A little bit concerning, I guess you could say, for the Roosters in that regard. But look, they put up a good fight. It was anybody's game for a long time. 25 minutes, the first try was scored. Sorry, the Roosters scored the first try, and then the Warriors scored the second try 25 minutes in, and then it was a bit of an arm wrestle game. The Warriors got 2 tries in the last 15 minutes. The Chanel Harris-Tavita try, that was a bit of a good try, that one. A bit of a kick, sort of not quite a bomb, sort of a chip over the top sort of thing, and then caught it and scored, and sort of broke the shackles a little bit. The Warriors then took the lead in the game there, and then they scored another try 10 minutes out from full time, and they had that 8-point buffer and held on. They've now won 2 games in a row, and they sit in 7th position in the top 8. So pretty good start to the season for them. Their next game is against the Tigers at Campbelltown. The Roosters, they sit down in 14th spot. Now, despite they had that great win against the Panthers the week before, but have slipped with this loss down to 14th. Their next game is against the Gold Coast Titans at Allianz Stadium in round number 4. The next game, I won't talk about it too much because won't talk about it at all because I've already spoken about it. The Broncos beat the Cowboys 26 points to 16. The first game on Super Saturday saw the Sharks take on the Rabbitohs, and the Sharks got the win 27 points to 12 against the Rabbitohs at Shark Park. 14,320 turned up there. And fortunately for the Sharks, it was 20-0 at half-time. They were well in control of this game and never looked back. The Rabbitohs never looked like they were going to win this game, unfortunately. They did score 2 late tries in the second half. Jack White in the 69th minute, Jamie Humphries in the 74th minute. But all the damage was done in the first half. Nico Hines got the first try. Braden Trindle also got a try in the second half, 45th minute. And look, it's very interesting there. If one's having a great game, Nico Hines, then Braden Trindle as well is there to complement him as well, or he can pick him up as well. And that little bit of competition between each other is a good thing, definitely, for the Sharks. Now, the Sharkies, they have had 2 wins this season. They sit in 6th spot on the ladder, just outside that top 4 spot, and they take on the Bulldogs next week at Shark Park. So an interesting little return there for Bronson Cherry as well. I'm not too sure if it's the first time he's played there since he's come back to rugby league, but that will certainly be interesting, that is for sure. 1-point field goal, I guess you could say a little bit of practice, as it was kicked in the 79th minute by Braden Trindle. And look, Teague Wilton, he was a top tackler for the Sharks, 39, and Peter Mamouzelos, wow, 63 tackles in the game. That is a magnificent effort, a monster effort, to be honest. Kyle Ito, 264 metres. Campbell Graham, 166 metres. They were your top performers for the Sharks and the Rabbitohs. So, look, the Sharkies, they keep on their winning way, and as I mentioned, they play the Bulldogs. For the Rabbitohs, they take on the Panthers, as previously mentioned, at Accor Stadium without Nathan Cleary. The next game that was played was the Dolphins taking on the West Tigers at KO Stadium. Pretty healthy crowd for that stadium, 10,023. Conditions were good. And look, this was a really good game, I thought. I thought the Dolphins were going to get away with them with this win. I tipped the Dolphins to win this game, and they were pretty much in control for most of it. They were winning 18-12 at half-time. Failed to score a point in the second half, which is a bit concerning for them. But the West Tigers, they are playing some good footy at the moment. They came back into this game and they scored some points in this second half that really turned the match, and they took the lead in the game for the first time. And Taruva, he got another double. I think he scored about 5 or 6 tries in... I think it's 5 tries in 2 games. So he got a triple against Parramatta and 2 against the Dolphins here. So a pretty handy pickup for the Tigers from the Panthers. But also Api Coruscant as well, 75th minute try. Very smart. He led a try assist for Alex Seyfarth to score in the 68th minute. But the try that Api scored himself was about 20 metres out, I think it was. Fate to dummy to, I think, Jerome Luai for the field goal. Saw that there was a bit of space there and just took off and scored the try near the post. And Adam Dewey, he made the conversion. He nailed all his conversions, 5 from 5, so some pretty good kicking there from Adam Dewey. The Dolphins, look, as I said, they got off to the good start there. Jack Bostock, late calling, got the first try of the game. Herbie Farnworth scored. Cody Nikorima scored. It did look like they were in control of this game. Still a 6-point difference at half-time, but you think with that momentum, maybe half-time killed the Dolphins' momentum, and the Tigers came over the top of them. So it was a really good win for the Tigers. Terrell May as well, his form just keeps on going really, really well. 42 tackles in this game. Fanua Pole, 212 run metres for the Tigers. They were the top performers for the Tigers. Herbie Farnworth, 209 metres. And Max Plath, 45 tackles, the top performers for the Dolphins. A little bit of talk about Max Plath potentially being a Queensland Origin representative this season. Certainly on the radar of Billy Slater, the Queensland coach. And certainly if he can keep those performances up, he may find himself on the bench for the Queensland Maroons. Speaking of Origin, Terrell May, if he keeps up this form that he is in, he certainly had a bit of form last year at the Roosters, and he's carried on this year as well so far for the Tigers. If he keeps on that, there's also talk about him making the New South Wales State of Origin side as well this season. So a little bit of talk about him. So if he can keep that up, he potentially will make that team. So the Tigers at the moment, they find themselves in the top 4. They're coming 4th. So they've had 2 wins from 3 games. They take on the Warriors next week at Campbelltown. So a home game for them. They will like their chances against the Warriors. This one will be a hard one to tip, but I think I know who I'll be tipping. That will be revealed in the tipping podcast with Ella on Wednesday. But that will be a hard one to tip. That could go either way. You just don't know what sort of Warriors side is going to turn up away from New Zealand. We all know that they can play over in New Zealand, but you just don't know what team is going to turn up away from New Zealand. And the Tigers, can they keep that consistency throughout the season? Consistently each and every week, and winning home games as well as away games. They've won 2 away games now. They're back at home, so that'd be nice for them if they can get that home win. The Titans took on the Knights up at Cbus Super Stadium, and well, the Newcastle Knights, they don't have a very good record up there on the Gold Coast. I believe it's something like 2015 they haven't won up there since. So the Gold Coast Titans, they probably held that over the Newcastle Knights. But the Knights went into this game as favourites, having won their last 2 games. And look, they, as I said, went into this game as favourites, and you thought they would have got away with it. But unfortunately, though, it took them 74 minutes to score a try. It was a real spirited effort from the Gold Coast Titans. They won the game 4 tries to 1. And Jaden Campbell kicked 5 goals out of 6 attempts, 12-0 at half-time. Jojo Fafita got the first try. Jaden Campbell, he got himself a try. Both were more a try. David Fafita got a try as well. Bradman Best was the try scorer for the Newcastle Knights, but it was pretty much the game was well and truly done and dusted by then. That is for sure. So, look, Coach Adam O'Brien looked very frustrated in the box, the coach's box up there on the Gold Coast, but why wouldn't you? You know, it was a pretty hard game to get a win. Things weren't going right for the Newcastle Knights. They just could not get across that try line. They were making mistakes and, as I said, could not score points. For the Gold Coast Titans, Sam Verrills, top tackler, 41 tackles. Keanu Kinney, 221 run metres. For the Newcastle Knights, Thomas Cant is 56 tackles, and Bradman Best, 186 run metres. So they were the top performers for the Newcastle Knights. Where do they go from here? Well, next week, the Newcastle Knights, they have the bye, so they will have a think tank about what is going to go on for their next game. Probably a little bit of a hard week at training, I would imagine, but the Gold Coast Titans, they find themselves in 8th position, having the bye in round 1, and now a win. So they have started the season pretty good. I mean, you get 2 points for a bye anyway. They don't choose when you get the bye, and they've got a win in round number 3 at home. Now they travel on the road to play the Roosters in Sydney, so their first away game for the year. So that will be an interesting encounter, and probably one that may be a little bit hard to tip as well, because look, we know how the Roosters have gone. Titans are travelling pretty well, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. But that was all your Saturday action. On Sunday, well, I don't really want to talk too much about the Eels and Bulldogs game, simply because I've done that in the Eels and Bulldogs review, game day or game review podcast, which is out now. So check that one out if you want to check my thoughts about that one. But just quickly, I will go through it a little bit. Have to do that throughout the NRL round review. So the Bulldogs took on the Eels, 2 rivals at CommBank Stadium, 24,059. It was the Bulldogs who got the win, 16 points to 8. For the Bulldogs, Reid Marnie playing against his old club, 45 tackles. Connor Tracy, 211 metres. They were the top performers for the Bulldogs. For the Eels, 48 tackles. Jermaine Hopgood, 303 metres for Zach Lomax for the Parramatta Eels. His obviously new club, 3rd game in new colours. And he was pretty much in everything as well. When the high kicks went up, he was the one chasing them, and I think probably playing a bit of a leader role, trying to inspire his teammates to follow him and do things like him as well, and just give them that confidence as well. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. Very interesting game. Josh Curran has apparently become a referee now. A lot of talk about that. He got penalised for not in the spirit of the game. I think yelling out to Matt Dury, I think it was, pretending to be the referee. But look, surely that happens more times than you know. We just don't pick it up. I guess that was because the referee heard him and thought it wasn't in the spirit of the game. Look, I don't know. I think that's Look, if obviously it worked this time, Parramatta got the penalty in this regard. Look, if a Parramatta player was doing that, which I'm sure has happened over the past, we just haven't heard about it, then look, I probably wouldn't mind it either. I mean, we all hear about players calling for the ball when there's a break made, things like that. They yell out opposition players' names. So, look, I don't know. Is it a penalty? Probably by the rules of the game, yes. Should it be? Oh, I don't really know, but it was on that occasion. So we'll just have to wait and see what comes out of that one. The Bulldogs, they sit in second position on the ladder, pretty healthy at the moment, and setting up a good game at Shark Park against the Cronulla Sharks this weekend. So 3 wins for them. They are the only undefeated team in the competition in the way of playing games. The Melbourne Storm are still undefeated as well, although they have had a round 2 bye. But the Bulldogs, they are 3 from 3. The Parramatta Eels, they are 0 from 3, unfortunately, and find themselves on the bottom of the ladder. They take on the Manly Sea Eagles, who we'll speak about next. And we'll go to that game now, and it is the Raiders taking on the Sea Eagles at Four Pines Park, Brookvale Oval. To me, a pretty healthy crowd on a Sunday night, the sort of twilightish game, I guess you could say, the 6 p.m. kickoff. 16,125 and 40 points to 12. The Manly Sea Eagles got the win over the Raiders, which is a bit of a surprise, I think, considering the Raiders have been playing some pretty good footy of late. They obviously got the win in Las Vegas, and they got the win last week against the Broncos. This game with the Manly Sea Eagles were without Tommy Turbo, just that slight hamstring, I guess, not strain, but not tear, but probably, issue, I guess you could say. They rested him for this game, and smart move by them to rest him, and he'll be right for the game against Parramatta. So, very smart from these Sea Eagles. They thought they could beat the Raiders without him, and yes, they did, and now he's going to be back for the game against Parramatta. So, Ruben Garrick became a father during the week, I think it was. So, congratulations to him. But 4 tries to Ruben Garrick and 6 out of 7 conversions. So, a monster points haul for him. Let's just quickly add that one up. 4 tries, 28 points for Ruben Garrick. So, pretty good effort there. Magnificent 4 tries. Ethan Bullimore as well, the back rower. 2 tries as well, 2 minutes apart. So, a big win for Manly. 30-0 at half-time, and they looked like they did that against the Cowboys, their first game at 4 points, round number 1. They absolutely blitzed it in the first half as well. So, sort of, I guess, did they take their foot off the pedal? Yeah, probably. Did the Raiders improve in the second half? Yeah. But, yeah, the damage was already done in the first half, so they got the win, 40 points to 12. The Raiders scored a couple of tries late in the game. Sebastian Christian in the 63rd minute. Hudson Young in the 77th. So a big loss for them. Top performers for each team. Look, the Raiders, Tom Starling, the hooker for the Raiders, 46 tackles. KO Weeks, 141 metres. For the Sea Eagles, Sia Takiaho on 25 tackles. And Hamoli Olakawatu, 227 metres. So, look, and Ruben Garrett with 3 line breaks as well. So they were your top performers for the Raiders and Sea Eagles. Now to the ladder, the Sea Eagles find themselves in 3rd spot, entrenched in that top 4. The Raiders go down to 9th spot. The Raiders take on the Cowboys up there at Queensland Country Bank Stadium, and the Sea Eagles play the Parramatta Eels at 4 Points Park in Brookvale. So, after round 3, the top 8 looks like this. The Storm, Bulldogs, Sea Eagles, Tigers are your top 4. The Broncos, Sharks, Warriors, Titans are your top 8. Just outside the 8 are the Raiders and Knights and Rabbitohs. And then the Panthers in 12th. Don't worry, Panther fans. I'm pretty sure you'll get right up there again. They find themselves in 12th spot. Then the Dragons, the Roosters, the Dolphins, Cowboys, and Eels. The Dolphins, Cowboys, and Eels are the only winless teams so far after 3 rounds. They will be looking to try and get that win in round number 4 to get off that duck egg and see if they can slowly but surely climb up the ladder, but give themselves confidence of winning an NRL game. Anyway, that was my review of round number 3. I hope you enjoyed that one. The tipping podcast will be out on Wednesday, the interview podcast out on Thursday, and a game day preview podcast out on Friday, and then probably part 2 of the interview podcast will be out as well on Saturday. So plenty of content coming your way. Thank you very much for the support. Thank you very much for listening. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And look, the Para Cave podcast by the fan, for the fans. Go Para!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Para Cave